What the hell does Warren know about retirement?
Yeah, we haven't even thought about it. Now, let me give you one suggestion for that group.
Many of you are probably asking the same question that Munger did here. What does Warren Buffett know about retirement, and how can he help me figure out how to get my savings on track if I have nothing saved up and I'm over 40 years old? It can be a daunting feeling, thinking that you have no savings to fall back on as retirement approaches. Life happens so quickly to all of us. You finish school, get a job, then you're married with kids and looking for a home. And before you know it, you're entering your 40s and having no plans for retirement. And here's where Warren Buffett comes in. It turns out he's considered retired since he was 27 years old.
It's much easier to save it in those teenage years if you're lucky enough to be in a family where you don't have, where your parents are taking care of your financial obligations. Every dollar then is, worth making $10 or $20 later on. And
while it's true, the sooner you save money, the easier and faster you'll retire, it's still very possible to do so in your 40s. So don't panic, because I'll show you how to get it together, and it all starts with this step.
No, there's no question about it. I mean, the money makes very little difference after a moderate level. I tell this to college students that I talk to. I mean, they are basically living about the same life I'm living.
What does Warren Buffett's living like a college student have to do with the first step? Well, it turns out there's more to it than you may realize. If Warren Buffett can live like a college student, be happy, and still be the 5th richest person in the world, then there's something more than money. It's his positive mindset. Being positive is the first step to figuring out how to start saving. As soon as you stop believing that you can retire, then the chances of you doing so decrease dramatically. As Warren Buffett said, should you find yourself in a chronically leaking boat, energy devoted to changing vessels is likely to be more productive than energy devoted to patching leaks. Right now, your leaking boat may be the inability to find motivation and support your dream. So it calls for a boat change. But how do you get the motivation to get started?
Motivation.
You don't have any friends to help guide you, as they're all too busy trying to get their own lives together. But let me share something with you that can change your view. What do you think Harlan Sanders, the creator of KFC, Henry Ford, the man who's behind the creation of Ford, Martha Stewart, the queen of food television and home care, and Roy Kroc, the man who created and pushed McDonald's to be the biggest fast food chain in the world, have in common? They all found success well after the age of 40. And not to mention that Buffett is a huge fan of McDonald's. In fact, there's even more to it than this. Turns out that adults past the age of 40 are at the peak of their careers. In other words, they make the most money. This is because they have a lot of experience under their belts and are at the peak of getting promotions and raises. You can use this to your advantage. How? You can use this extra money to fuel your retirement savings. You may stumble on a roadblock though if you're not careful. For instance, if you start making more money, your family may also want to use that money more for fun activities like vacations and trips. This is why it's important to make sure you do this next step. When you're looking to save for retirement, you need to have a plan and make sure that your family is on the same page. That means fewer vacations and reducing wants and focusing more on needs. Having open communication can prevent fights that can derail your progress to retirement.
Loving the communication.
Even though your family may not be immediately happy and have to adjust, they'll thank you later. This was the approach that Warren Buffett took with his family, and his kids have nothing but good things to say about their dad. Warren Buffett gave his children enough to live comfortably, but not enough to be spoiled. This way, they all became successful, and he retired with no problem. Step 2 is to make sure that you discuss your retirement plans with your family and that everyone is on board. But what is your plan? How do you plan to retire when you don't have that much time left? Good question. It starts with step 3. If you take your retirement seriously, then you need to know where you're spending your money and how you can cut down your costs and increase your income. You want to be purposeful with your money and give every single dollar a job. In simpler terms, this step is known as making a budget. When you specifically put amounts of money into things, You can make a detailed plan to save up enough money so you can retire with ease. But the best thing about budgeting can be summed up with a Warren Buffett quote. The most important thing to do if you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging. You can't always buy what you want and think you'll be fine. This is the same as digging yourself a hole and continuing without thought. A budget helps you realize you're in a hole and allows you to stop digging so you can get out. Buffett practices this every day as his life reflects frugality. He drives a used car, eats cheap meals, and lives in the same home he bought in 1958. The truth is, you only get one shot at life, so it's best to do it right.
But I do tell those students, that if I gave you a car and it'd be the only car you get in the rest of your life, you take care of it like you can't believe. Any scratch, you'd fix that moment. You'd read the owner's manual. You'd keep a garage and do all these things. And you get exactly one mind and one body in this world. And
I had a friend who hated hearing the words saving and budgeting. It made them cringe, as they love to live life freely and enjoy the moments as they came. To follow Warren Buffett's words, they decided to throw away the manual for the one car they had, and didn't care if it got scratched. As a friend got older, they really started to struggle to make ends meet, and things didn't feel free anymore. Fortunately, I managed to help them get back on track, and now they can't go a day without saying the words savings and budgeting. Now, as you start accumulating money, in hopes that you may get rich as Warren Buffett, you may wonder, what's the best way to save? It's probably to put it into a savings account, right? Well, you'd be surprised by this answer, which is also the next step. There are 3 places you need to save money. The first is the traditional method, which is for emergencies. The second is investments, and the third is for big purchases like a down payment on a home. While these are all important, I have something to reveal to you. It turns out that money in your savings account won't make you rich. I can tell you that it's not at all what made Warren Buffett rich. In fact, the majority of his net worth lies in this method, which I'll explain later in the video. But I have to tell you something really important. In fact, it may be one of the most important things you need to start right now.
And the world is in love with credit cards, but I would suggest to anybody that the first thing they do in life is not only, they can get to something else later on, but don't be paying even 12% to anybody.
Just like Warren Buffett says, don't pay anybody with interest on anything. And what do you pay interest on? You guessed it, debt. Debt is the killer of your income, and it makes life totally miserable. Sadly, debt plagues many Americans. I'm going to tell you how to get out of it, and it's definitely not what you'd expect. If you're in debt, forget about saving right now. Yes, I get you're confused, but hear me out. Debt nullifies the effect of your savings because you have to pay huge interest payments. The longer you hold on to debt, the more you pay in the long run. As Warren Buffett said in one of his annual shareholder meetings, I don't know where you can find a return of 18%, and you definitely take it if you find it. Funnily enough, paying your debt faster is basically a return on whatever the interest rate is. With your debt totally cleared out now, I can finally tell you about my favorite step on the list, and you'll see why. When you're starting to see money come in due to your debts being paid off, you need to give your money work to do. No, not just having a purpose or a place to be, but to actually work for you to make money. You spend all your life working and deserve a break, so passing that work to money can make you and money a team that will give you financial freedom. Essentially, you want to place your money in investments so that it can grow beyond what you thought imaginable. This is where almost all of Warren Buffett's net worth sits. However, it can be hard to decide how to be properly intentional with your money. You probably have questions like, how much should I put into expenses? How much should I invest, and how much should I save? These are all good questions, and I can answer them easily with 3 numbers: 75, 15, 10. This rule says that for every dollar you earn, 75% of it goes into expenses, 15% goes to investments, and 10% goes to savings. This way, every single dollar both has a purpose and a job.
And I would do far better percentage-wise if I were working with small sums. There are just way more opportunities. If you're working with a small sum,
You have thousands and thousands of potential opportunities. And
If you're afraid of investing, just rewatch this clip. Warren Buffett is pretty clear in saying that you can make a ton of money with little capital because you can have an excellent choice of investments. However, there's still one more step that can make or break whether you can retire or not. Before I tell you that step though, you need to understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Simply put, an asset puts money in your pocket, and a liability takes money out of your pocket. An asset can be considered people financing you, and a liability is you financing people and making someone else rich. If you haven't guessed it, this step is to spend wisely. You work hard for your money, and you get to decide how to use it at the end of the day. One thing to always remember is that you need to be able to buy something upfront with cash and have spare time to actually afford it. For example, if you need a car, don't buy a $50,000 car that constantly depreciates in value, but buy a used one that's very reliable and likely to last you for years to come. Warren Buffett doesn't buy things based on luxury, but always on functionality. A car gets you from one place to another, and that's that. It doesn't matter if it's a Ferrari or a Toyota. But what about a home? Everyone needs a home to live in, and buying a house is a good asset, right? Well, that may not be the case. If you buy a home and end up struggling to pay it off, it'll turn into your worst nightmare. It's better to live in an apartment you can afford and start saving up so you can buy a home that you can be comfortable in and call it an asset. When it comes to daily purchases, just because you see a fixed price doesn't mean you need to pay it. One old skill can help you lower prices, and that's negotiation. You may be able to strike a lower price that can help you spend less. Saving for retirement isn't a walk in the park. You need to make major sacrifices, but it's worth it. You'll be so happy and grateful to know that you won't burden your children when they're getting their lives together, and you can enjoy the last years of your life peacefully. You can be dignified in knowing that it was all you. See, it's totally possible to retire even if you've started your plan after 40. You can be walking in Warren Buffett's shoes in no time. It is hard, but it's possible. Be sure to subscribe because there are tons of amazing videos on the way. See you soon.